Can you talk to me a bit about your background? Because I hadn't heard of your music before you emailed me with that absolute funky bop, Grace Jones. So what have you been doing up to now with music, and how has it all kind of come about, your passion for music?
Yeah, well, I guess me and music kind of goes, yeah, way back. I accidentally joined a band when I was at secondary school. And it was sort of me and a bunch of the sort of like class misfits, the indie kids, big flared trousers, etc. And I was like rolling with this crew, and they were setting up a band. I went to a girls' school, and they were setting up this indie band, and I kind of fell into their friendship circle around that time and really wanted to be involved, but it was all kind of set and going. And I was like, great, well, I can just sort of cheer on from the sidelines. And then it transpired that the girl who was going to play bass no longer was able to. So at the time, I was playing clarinet in the school orchestra. So I played clarinet from sort of like primary school up into secondary school. Terrible. I absolutely stink at clarinet. I would not force anyone to listen to me play that right now. So they were like, "Oh, Sarah, well, you know music, like you can play bass, like cool." And I was like, "Bass? I don't know. Can I play guitar?" And it's like, "No, she's playing guitar." I was like, "Okay, can I sing?" And it's like, "No, she's singing." It's like, "Right." Drums? It's like, "No, she's doing drums." Like, oh. And I kind of just fell into playing the bass, and over the years, so without giving too much away, but that was a long old time ago. And over the years, I kind of had this relationship where I really didn't give it the props that it deserved. Like bass is a really cool instrument, and it's difficult because most of the time it works best as part of an ensemble. But I played with that band, and then I went on to play with another band called S.A.A.R.A and Hot Machine. So that was like just after I left uni by this point. So doing music for a long, long time. And I was playing bass for them, and we had a tour with Public Enemy, which was like, wow. We played Glastonbury, which was amazing, the first and only time I've ever been. And yes, we did a lot, but I still really didn't connect with how powerful this instrument was, and how obviously it was really sticking to me. So I did that for a while, and then unfortunately that band kind of came to an end about 2010, and I was heartbroken, like totally bereft, like couldn't listen to music, couldn't listen to radio, like it was, yeah, painful. And then slowly I thought, okay, I want to play music, I want to write songs. And I tried to be everything but a bass player. I tried to be a pianist, mediocre. I tried to play guitar. I just can't deal with the strings. They're so painful. And in the end, yeah, I kind of fell back into playing bass. And this project was born out of that, really, kind of uh, finding my way to finding my sound. I knew I wanted to make music that made people dance. I was sort of drafting all these songs in GarageBand at the time that were just coming out really sad. It's like, I don't even want to listen to this. This is like miserable stuff. But then when I started experimenting on like producing beats and really kind of just leaning into my sound and not being so afraid of doing something that didn't sound like anything else, then it really started to kind of take shape. And that's how this project came about.
Yeah, I think that's what really makes you stand out as well, with just the funkiness of your songs, and you're not afraid to go a little bit outside of the norm with how a song should sound like, the whole structure of a song. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I love about it too. I'm interested to find out, because obviously your kind of like baby is the bass guitar. Did you ever have any kind of like role models with other women who played bass guitar? Like, do you know of any people who kind of influenced that decision for you?
Yeah, funnily enough, not so much, which is a real shame. And it's only sort of recently that I have started to sort of notice female bass players, and particularly female bass players who front their projects as well. So there's a lady called Adeline, She's based in New York, and she does a lot of kind of like funk. She slaps bass, which is something that I can't really do, and it's something that I've not really been drawn to do, not yet anyway. Um, and so that was really nice to see. And another lady called Nikki West, and she's like really funky. She's kind of like if Prince was a woman who played bass, that would be her. But sort of growing up and going to, because I grew up listening to a lot of indie music and like a lot of band music, and I would always have a little part of me that would be a bit, I don't think resentful's the right word, but the kind of female bass player, or even to an extent, like the female like guitarist who was just sort of like hitting that one note and like spending most of the time like flicking the hair around. And it was kind of like, oh, it would be really great to kind of see the level of intensity and passion that is kind of expected and allowed with male musicians to be given to female musicians. Like, we all know bands where they really like rock out and like trash the stuff, and that's not to say that that doesn't happen with female bands, like the Slits, for example, are really like raw and edgy, and have their own sound and just own it. But yeah, I found, particularly being a Black woman as well, like I found part of my musical journey was kind of existing in a space where I didn't really see a lot of myself reflected back, which in a way was tough. But then also it meant that, well, I get to decide a lot of things now because I'm not really thinking about how I can compare to what's gone before. It's like, okay, well, I am the thing that's going now.
Yeah, you get to be the trailblazer, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually remember, it's interesting you say about the whole kind of how women guitarists and male guitarists are treated, because I don't know if you saw, I think it was Phoebe Bridgers who was in the press recently because she smashed up a guitar on stage, and there was like this massive outright roar about it. I don't know if you
Wow,
saw
no, I
about
didn't see
that.
that.
But like you see
No.
like male musicians do that, and it's like really cool, and you're like,
Yeah.
yes.
Like, oh, look at them, they're punk rock, it's edgy, and sort of a woman does it, and it's like, oh, well, what is it? Is it like that time? Is it? It's like, oh, no, I'm just expressing myself in a way that's not gender specific. Like anyone can smash up a guitar or like rock out or stage dive, and yeah, it's kind of the idea of when you are a woman in certain spaces that are male dominated, and like the music world, the art world generally, even like the corporate sphere, like you kind of have to like pick from a shelf certain identikits that suit, like either you're really abrasive and aggressive and off-putting, or you have to be very gentle and soft and welcoming and smooth and shiny. And it's kind of like, well, what if you want to be both of those things? What if you want to be smooth and shiny but abrasive and aggressive?
Yeah, totally hear what you're saying. So who are the kind of people that you are listening to at the moment? Do you have like a certain playlist you just play all over again, or artists that you just come back to all the time, or what are you listening
Yeah.
to?
I kind of my Spotify is a mess because I just save things into liked songs, and then it's like, oh, what was that song? And it's like trawling through like just thousands of songs that that's one resolution I'd like to make, is like start having those playlists, because people say, they're like, oh, S.A.A.R.A, like you do music, music, like play something. It's like, oh, no, I can't do that. I can't play stuff out of my Spotify saved songs list because it's so random. Like, but I love Little Dragon. I love their sound. I think her vocals are amazing. I like how they kind of bring in that sort of song structure, but then also have like elements of production using sort of found sounds. Really enjoy that. I circle back a lot to artists like Kate Bush, who I love. Like, yeah, she really did her own thing her way and was very much in control of the music that she wanted to make. And in the 70s as well, like 70s, 80s, where it's like, bands, music, like that's men's work. To be a woman saying, no, this is how I want it to sound. And actually, this is how I want it to look. And this is how I want the stage to be. And then you work it out. Not, there's none of this, no, it doesn't happen like that, love. Sorry, no, it's not possible. Like, no, it's like, no, this is what I want to happen. And we'll figure it out. So I love that about her. And I like listening to a little bit of jazz from time to time, like Charles Mingus. I really like some of the like refrains and the licks, like and especially when I arrange for the woodwind section in the band, it's kind of nice to like lean on some of those sensibilities where you can have lines repeated across the different instruments, or kind of a call and response kind of vibe. Who else am I listening to at the minute? Yeah, I love a bit of drum and bass from time to time, like a little bit of like liquid drum and bass. I've been listening to Bicep a bit recently as well. That kind of sort of kind of almost ambient dance kind of music. So yeah, really varied stuff.
But the artist you picked, you already talked about a little bit, Kate Bush, for your favourite woman in music. Gonna play Running Up That Hill. What is it about this song that you like?
Oh my gosh, like so many things. I remember as a kid, I was addicted to music TV. Like I would get up like in the mornings, especially at the weekends, and I would like stick on like the box or MTV back when they actually played music. Gosh, if only they stuck to just playing music, where would we be now? Maybe pandemic free. I'm not speculating, I'm just hypothesizing. But yeah, I'd sit in front of, the box, MTV, VH1, and just like soak myself in music. And I think my mum thought I was a bit simple because I wasn't doing anything else. And I remember it came on I think it was VH1. And I remember the first time I saw the video of Running Up That Hill. And, when the drums come in at the beginning, you kind of got this, like, it just, the song itself is absolute genius. The way she sets up the scene, the programmed drums, like the idea of making a deal with God. And yeah, like the choreography with it just really struck me, totally blew me away. And ever since then, I've just absolutely loved that song. Yeah, the drum beat is that it's just phenomenal. It's so and I think like it's the simplicity, but how it's been constructed that makes it so enigmatic. And I read something about her talking how she uses her backing vocals as well, and rather than kind of supporting like the main melody with like really sweet harmonies that are quite indicative of like pop music, she kind of has the idea of creating these textural accompaniments to her main vocal. And as someone who is a very like I sing all the time, like especially when I'm stressed, like like I'll just start singing a song like, I feel like, what is up with that? But singing to perform, again, that took me a really long time, a bit like with my sort of connection with the bass, like it took me a really long time to feel connected to my voice as an instrument and all the hang-ups that come with that. Because if someone doesn't like how you play an instrument, then that's okay. You can improve, or like that's your style or your technique or whatever. But if someone doesn't like your voice, or they think you can't sing, then it's like, oh, that's me. But listening to artists like Kate Bush and even Bjork, who really just take ownership of their vocals sounding completely like them and using their vocals in interesting ways, I just find so inspiring. And yeah, in this song, how she layers up those harmonies and really gives a lot of like texture and power to the backing vocals, I think, yeah, it's just absolute genius. Could
I
listen to that
love
song and repeat forever.
it. Yeah, I love it as well. I can't remember which album I listened to by Kate Bush the other day, but like it was just like a movie in your head. That's all I could
Yeah.
like think. I just shut my eyes and I just like see all the music in my head. It's just it's a really weird way of listening to an album, but I kind of love it, you know. It's
Oh,
awesome.
completely.
But
And I
yeah.
kind of feel like some of the songs that I write, well, I'd say all of the songs that I write, I kind of tap into exactly what you say. Like I try and like tap into a sort of a level of visualization with it, which really helps me figure out what is happening in the song and like what to do, not just lyrically, but also in the arrangement.
Mm.
Um, and when I first started working with the band that I play with, so I've got an amazing flautist called Rebecca. Thomas plays bassoon and Nick plays tenor sax. And we'd be sort of rehearsing and I'd sort of arrange all of the tracks and then we kind of go through them and learn them and work them out live because everything's done in Logic.
Mm.
And I'll be saying stuff. I mean, I think they're used to me now, but in the beginning I'd be like, yeah, like, can you make it sound a bit more like purple? And they're like, psh, what are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, kind of like, you know, say you've like walked through jelly and then you get to the top of this hill and all you see is green. Make it sound like that. And they're like, what do you mean, like a double breathe rest? And so they are they've orchestral trained musicians. They're phenomenal. So we have this kind of chasm of like me trying to explain things through like textures and colors and like feelings, like that feeling you get when you just wake up and you think it's Sunday but it's actually Saturday, like play it like that. And they're like, oh, do you mean like more staccato? Do you mean like more intense? I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go and extend our time in the rehearsal room because I think we need to work this out.
Oh, I love that. I feel like I can somewhat relate though, to be honest, because I find myself like, even as a music journal, I'm just really bad at describing music. Like, but I feel like you've maybe given me a few ideas there. Just like maybe just describe it in color or an experience I've had, maybe.
Oh my God. Well, let me know how that works out for you.
One thing I actually wanted to ask you, really, but as I've already said, your music is just so funky. I'm just like, just want to bop all the time when I'm just listening to it. I guess we've already spoken about this just now, but like, how do you actually go about writing your songs? Is there like things that you find from inspirations? Because I don't really find your music is very lyrically based. It's more kind of the sound, isn't it? And the kind of layers of textures you kind of already explained. But yeah, could you explain to me a bit about that, about how you write songs and make songs?
Yeah. Well, I guess as I explained, like eventually coming home to roost and accepting that I'm a bass player and embracing that and being okay with that, I always start off my writing process with a bass hook or sort of like an idea for a bass line. And then I'll sit and I'll program in the drums in Logic. So I'll kind of like cycle through the loops to see anything that kind of like jumps out or fits. So sometimes I have the bass line first, or sometimes I'll cycle through the loops and just play over and see anything that sticks. So it's kind of like a little bit of trial and error in the beginning. And then I feel once I've got that hook or that catch, like I usually try and have a part A and a part B. So this hook is doing this for a certain amount of time, and then where is it going to go? So I try and work that out fairly early on. And then from there, the arrangement will come in. So sometimes I start with like the keys arrangement, just giving it the kind of like the chord structure. Or sometimes I'll have an idea for, you know, one of the woodwind instruments, like either a really hooky sax line or something for the flute. And I mean, again, to big up my band, is that like my MIDI keyboard skills do not match what they can do in real life. So I'm so grateful that they can sort of take that and really give it that kind of human sound. But yeah, I'll organize the woodwind arrangement. And then in terms of lyrics, yeah, like I think I have always been a little bit shy on lyrics. And I think that's also why I've kind of gravitated to doing sort of like kind of like dance mix, dance based genre music. You know, you can kind of get away with not being a Bob Dylan, not telling a fantastic story. You can kind of just throw out a few ideas and let the listener feel it, like you say, with the music. um but yeah, sometimes like I'll have just like a little like phrase that pops into my mind, or if I'm watching something and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a really clever way of saying something, then I'll kind of make a note or jot it down. I've got these notebooks like everywhere, like there's a pile behind me, there's a pile in front of me, and my record keeping is terrible. Sometimes it's in my phone, but I'll be like, oh yeah, what was that line? So I'll kind of have a rough idea and just sort of mumble over this beat and bass basic arrangement and kind of hope and pray that it kind of takes shape. Some songs faster than others. And the I think we played it at the last show we did, which was at September last year. We played a new song called Sirens. And that song took a while to come together. It had this bass hook, and it was quite unusual. And I thought, don't know what to do with it, but I feel really like I can do something with it. So I had it and I'd be playing with it for a while. And then it got to the point where like, well, nothing's happening with this. I should just move on, play something else. And I would try and play something else. And I just would keep on reverting back to this hook. And I was like, right, well, I'm not going to be free of it until I can turn it into something. So it haunted me for weeks. It was a nightmare. I was like, why are you rattling chains? You know, it's sort of like the ghost of Christmas past, but in the form of a bass hook. And then eventually it just caught, and the song kind of wrote itself, and it kind of moved from just being this one haunting bass hook right on through to structured into, you know, my verse, my chorus, and then this sort of really amazing outro that really kind of takes the song to a new place. So as soon as that is polished enough to share, I will definitely send that to you, because I think you're going to really like that one.
What's it like when you have that like eureka moment of like, oh my goodness, I've got it? Like, describe that feeling for me, because that must feel amazing.
Oh, like incredible. Like, and especially because I feel block like completely, like throughout my whole body. I am miserable. I'm awful to be around. And now I recognize it, and I say to my friends, I'm like, don't worry, I'm just a little bit creatively constipated. If I'm a little bit short with you today, it's because I'm being haunted by a song that I can't finish. But otherwise, I'm good. You know, you want to get a sandwich? Like, let's go. So when you have that breakthrough moment, it's euphoric, because you're kind of like, yes, this, oh gosh, yeah, this is really cooking. And you kind of have to pace yourself in a way, because once the ideas start flowing, it's almost a challenge to be able to keep up with the rate at which you're thinking, okay, and then you can do this. Oh, and then actually you should go back, change the flute line to this. Oh, actually rewrite the lyrics to this. Oh, and it's like, okay, I had nothing for a really long time other than frustration, and now I have everything. Got to split the difference and kind of just go methodically through it. But yeah, it feels really good. And for me, a litmus test for all the tracks, I always, once it's kind of getting to that stage of being finished, it's structured, like I'll stick it on and I'm like, can I dance to this? And when I finished the song I was just telling you about, Sirens, and I hooked it up to my stereo and I cranked it up. And this was like the beginning of summer last year. So my windows were open, cranked it up, and I was just like loving this song, like having a good old vibe. And I looked out the window, and there's a guy in the street just like looking up, like, what is going on? Okay, so yeah, I'm connecting with people, and that's what music is about. So good day to you, sir.
Can you talk to me about Deliverance? Because I'm going to play that song now. It's of course, again, it's an absolute bop.
So yeah, Deliverance. This kind of came out feeling. So yeah, I guess with our tracks, although it is dance music, I think sort of broad art overarching, there were kind of different elements that come through with the different tracks. So Grace Jones, the first release, was definitely sort of very funky, had that kind of sort of like 70s like chic kind of vibe, like, you know, good times. And Deliverance has come out with this kind of like Afrobeat kind of vibe. And I'm a huge fan of Fela Kuti as well. And I just love the way that his tracks are structured, where you really kind of like sort of build, and then you have the main section of the song where everything is everything is happening, like you hit like the verses and the choruses, and then you kind of like build out. So it's sort of like this triangle approach. And yeah, with Deliverance, it's got that feel. I really love like the organ coming through. So the idea is, and I guess, yeah, returning to that idea of thinking visually about things, it's giving it that kind of like you're crossing this ginormous plain, and you're on this journey, and you can kind of feel the sun in your face, and you're like traveling on. So yeah, like that. And that in itself, I think that was the third song that I finished for this project, and it is the third song that is on the EP.
Exciting. Gonna play that song now so everyone can have their own little dance in their living rooms or wherever they play, wherever they listen. But yeah, you talk about that EP. Can you talk to me about that? Is that something that's come out recently? Because I feel so stupid. I didn't know you had one out.
Well, no, the EP isn't out yet. So yeah, so we've got Grace Jones, which was the lead single, Forest, which is coming out on the 24th of March. And then we're gonna do a little bit more work on Forest. So part of the project, part of the idea of what I wanted to set up and establish is creating dance music with live instrumentation. So you kind of get that almost going back to like the sort of early days of dance, electronic dance music, like, you know, the New York and Chicago warehouse scenes, where you've got these like electronic beats and these big vocals sampling old like jazz records to get those instrumental hooks. And I thought, okay, well, we've got that. You know, we've got these original sort of stems that we can take and sample. So the remix element is a huge part of this project. So with Grace Jones, we had 2 remixes done. I don't discriminate against people whose name isn't Rich, but the first remix was done by an artist called Rich T. And then the second remix, the Pound Notes remix, was done by an artist called Rich Pack. So you see what I mean? But, you know, other remixes are available. And yeah, and I just love giving over the tracks and saying, just do what you, do what you want, do your thing, rip it up, tear it apart, use whatever you want from it. And then, yeah, send it back to me. And so they've come back so different. And I love both of them. Like, yeah, the remix done by Rich T has got a very sort of like house vibe to it, and the remix done by Rich Pack, the Pound Notes remix, has a real sort of like electro indie dream disco kind of feel. And then the original track is obviously like straight up funk, you know, in your face, like all the instruments going off all at once. So yeah, the same with Forest. I've got a couple of remixes up my sleeve for that. And then once we've done with all of that, plus the video, which is currently in production, that was super fun to shoot, not last weekend, the weekend before, in Epping Forest. Yeah, then I'm going to have some time to get to work to putting out the whole EP. The plan was to make a vinyl, but I think we might have to just stick with digital release at the minute anyway. But yeah, the EP will be out hopefully this year, and that will be the 2 singles that have already dropped. Well, Forest will drop, and then Deliverance and Revenant is the 4th song on that EP, which hasn't seen the light of day yet. But yeah, that one again, that's kind of got like a dance beat, but it's leaning more into sort of like a hip hop vibe. So yeah, all the 4 different songs have quite distinct feels to them, which I think is quite nice.
I just feel like there's so much to look forward to. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm sort of a bit sad that it's not going to be on vinyl because I literally have a record player like right next to me.
Oh, it's
But I
in
will
the
definitely
pipeline.
stream them.
Yeah. We will make like, I mean, even just for myself, like I want this on vinyl, so it will happen. I'm gonna figure that out. So yeah, stay tuned for sure for that.
And hopefully, are you doing some shows? Because I wanted to ask you what like a S.A.A.R.A show is like, because it must be just like an explosion of just funky dancing, everyone just having a good time.
We have so much fun, so much fun. I mean, it's a nightmare for sound engineers because we like rock up and like there's myself, we have a synth player, and a live, when we play live, preferably we have a live drummer, but we have started to do shows with the drums on backing track, and then we really work on a really nice visual display, so we have some cool projections going. But in the most part, like we have a full complement, so myself, the woodwind players, so Rebecca, Thomas and Nick, then we'll have someone on synth, and a great guy called Jack Darville who plays drums with us when we play live. And yeah, we rock up and the sound engineer is like, okay, like what is all this stuff? It's like, what is that? It's like, what is that? It's like, that's a bassoon. They're like, right. Do you plug it into anything? It's like, no, we're gonna need like 2 microphones on that. And our bassoonist is really tall, and then the bassoon is a very tall instrument, so it's kind of like trying to mic him up. But yeah, once we get all of that sorted and plugged in, like, yeah, the shows are super fun, like big sweaty mess of just dancing and yeah, like shaking it all around. And yeah, like we just love it when the audience dances as well, and people tend to just really let go and like get into the moment and have a good time. So we want to be playing live, like we, that is definitely our MO, like, and in some ways it was particularly for this first EP where we were all just feeling our way through it, and this is the first time I've really kind of worked on finishing and sort of producing a record, and I worked with 2 amazing producers to make this finish this EP to a high standard. But even just like sketching it out, organizing the tracks, laying down the arrangement, vocal work, doing all of the BVs as well, it was like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that I need to learn. So that was difficult, taking a lot of the energy and putting it into the record, because yeah, the live shows really just go off. We have a lot of fun, and we're desperate to pay. Like I think, yeah, we would quite happily play a nearest, Subway sandwich store if they asked us. We're like, yeah, sure, no problem, we're there. Like, will we get sandwiches? No, there are other sandwich retailers available.
I love that. Maybe you can come and play my local Subway. I don't know.
Oh yeah, down. Yeah, no problem.
Please do. Before we chat about Grace Jones, what is your like big ambition for this project and just in your kind of music career in general? Is there anything like you really, really want to achieve? Or
Yeah, I mean, playing live is, yeah, just something I love doing. It's like, don't get me wrong, like I'm a bag of nerves before we play. Like, it's like, don't talk to me, my mouth is so dry. But I absolutely love playing live, and I think, yeah, for as soon as we possibly can, like we would love to be playing festivals, because I think, yeah, just to be able to get out in front of a big field of people just really wanting to dance would just be one, top pocket of achievements, I think. And yeah, I mean, what really motivates me creatively though is to just always be focusing on making work that I can stand behind and say, this is the best work that I have produced for the skills that I have right now. um, a lot of what delayed me in just finally like just stepping up and really taking ownership of the music I wanted to create was an obsession on perfection. comparing what other people are doing, comparing like how did they get to sound so polished and this, that, and the other. And you can really drive yourself crazy with that. And in the end, I really checked into the fact that as a creative, you are always evolving. So the record I made, the EP I made back in 2019, isn't going to sound the same as the next EP or the EP after that, because hopefully I will be growing as an artist and learning new things and bringing more influences into my canon. So yeah, like I think a big achievement for me is to always just be on top of making the music I want to make, how I want to make it. Being a woman in the music industry as well, like I have had to learn with this project, getting the EP done, getting content made, all of the things that really support putting your music out there, and dealing usually with men who want to say things like, you don't know enough about what you're doing, you should do it like this. No, that's totally wrong. And, as a learning artist, you kind of think, okay, well, if this is good advice, I should take it, even if it's speaking against what my inner self, my core, my gut is telling me to do. And every single time you take that advice against where you should be going, oh yeah, you end up 10 steps back. And actually, I would love to be in a position where I can be visible for other female artists, for other non-white female artists as well, to say, yeah, stick to your guns, like make the art that you want to make it in the way you want to make it. There is no empirical right or wrong with how you do this. Yes, there are some formulas. Yes, there is an idea that a song should be 3 minutes with a verse and a chorus and the middle A and an outro or whatever. And it's like, that is a formula and it does work for some people, and it's very well recognized. But here's the 7-minute long track with no chorus, like 2 outros, like it's got bassoon on it, and there's about 5 lines of lyrics. There you go. No, I'm not changing it, because that is what it is. That's how it came out. And yeah, just rolling with that and accepting you won't be everyone's cup of tea, but for the people who like your tea, yeah, I got time for you, no problem.
Love that. I just feel like you should just keep on being unashamedly yourself with all your music, because I think it comes out, and it's just it's nice for me as a music listener just to hear something that's just not wanting to go with with the mainstream. It's just, you're just doing your own thing, and that's what I like about certain artists. So yeah, keep doing what you do. I feel like I've been really cheesy there, but
yeah, right. I mean, yeah, and it is tough, like, and like we were talking about, artists like Kate Bush, artists like Bjork, David Bowie, who I love as well. Like, you think about all of these artists, and they stuck to their guns, and they did their work unashamedly. And I think part of what takes over in the back of my mind is an idea of legacy. Like, are you of a piece of art which will live in perpetuity forever, online on a stream, or if it's a painting in a gallery, or however it might look. But you wouldn't want that piece of work to ever feel compromised over the course of time. Like, you wouldn't want to be able to look back over your catalog and say, this isn't the work I wanted to make at the time. Like, I was making something for other people. I wasn't making something for myself. So yeah, I just try and be really honest about the work that I want to make. And it is hard, like, and it can be a bit of a scary, lonely place to be when you're doing stuff totally different. But yeah, I kind of look to those artists that stuck to their guns and think, okay, well, they changed music. They did something extraordinary and like revolutionary. And their music still sounds great today. Like, that the first David Bowie record, and he's like rocking up, like looking like he fell out of the sky, basically. And everyone's like, "Oh, is that man wearing makeup?" And isn't he odd? And all this kind of stuff. And like Prince as well. It's like, well, a man shouldn't be carrying on like that, or looking like that, or wearing that, or singing falsetto, or all of these kind of things. But actually, now the world has caught up with their vision, and I think that is the joyous thing about doing something. Your true form of art is people will catch up when they're ready for it, but you shouldn't ever hold yourself back because of it.
Yeah, I feel like that's the perfect kind of advice to almost end on before we chat about Grace Jones. So with Grace Jones, because I'm going to play it very, very soon, can you talk to me about this song? And I love it. I can't even put into words how much it makes me want to dance. So can you just explain it for me?
Yeah, so Grace Jones was the second track that I finished for this first EP. And funnily enough, as I was just talking about David Bowie, I was thinking about the track John, I'm Only Dancing. And he's kind of saying like, I'm just dancing with your woman and having a good time. There's nothing about it. I'm just dancing because I love dancing. And I was thinking, yeah, I love that line. And also this track was written like the inspiration behind this track was that moment where I really felt like I found my voice, my art, my center, like that, when it clicked, where I knew like who I wanted to be in a sense. And part of like my journey, part of my experience is that I always felt I was holding myself back a little bit, like and confidence things that everyone experiences, I'm sure, like unless you're very, very lucky, where you can just wake up and say I'm fabulous from day one, just can continue from there. But a lot of confidence issues, a lot of self-doubt, and I was so wrapped up in all of these things that were holding me back. I just really wasn't enjoying myself, like ever. Like I'd be out and with friends, or we'd be out dancing or whatever, and I'd be really just conscious of how I looked, and I didn't look as good as my friends did, and maybe they didn't really want me here, and they just invited me, and just this kind of running commentary of being a bit down on myself. And I remember one time going out. It's a bar in Camden it was called the Monarch then, and then it turned into a Barfly, and now it's Camden Assembly. Can't keep up. But I remember being out with some friends there and just deciding, I'm just going to have a good time. Just going to not care. I'm just going to dance. I'm just going to have fun. Like, and I think when I was writing this song, I was remembering that I decided to climb up on sort of like a bar bench and just dance crazily to Standing in the Way of Control by The Gossip, which I absolutely love. It's a banger of a track. And I just thought, yeah, this is what life should feel like. And Grace Jones is kind of written about me meeting my alter ego in a way, in sort of saying, actually, no, you're all right. You're cool. You're cool. You're cool. You're all right. And like, yeah, we should just boogie down and dance and just like forget all of the other stuff, because you're just going to worry your life away and not actually live it. And yeah, so that was the kind of start of this journey. It still took me a very long time to get my crap together, but like I do remember that moment of just thinking, yeah, you get one life to live. You just got to do the stuff that you want to do, and just balls to what anyone wants to say about who you are and what you think. Because if you know who you are, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. I feel like I could chat to you all day. I'm just like fascinated. I'm just like, I feel like I'm hooked on every single word you're saying. And yeah, I totally hear you. Like with all of that, I have my own issues and stuff. But yeah, right. I feel like writing a song about it is just the perfect way to process it, isn't it?
Yeah.
So in true radio style, to finish us off, could you introduce Grace Jones for the airwaves?
I would love to. So, thank you so much for having me, Lydia. I am so thrilled to be listening to Grace Jones on Gorgeous FM.